Okay, on to the next one. We're going to make another entity called tape measure repo. So let's go ahead and start that. We're going to make this one plural too. MEAS repo. So repository is a place where everything is held. And so we're going to throw that into there. And let's go ahead and name it right. REPOSI repository. And let's go ahead and, while we're in here, let's go ahead. Ooh, wrong one. Let's go ahead and make our test. Okay, so again, tape measure repository. Let's see, this guy is going to be the library of tape measures. So again, same pattern. We're going to hide the actual implementation behind an interface. So let's go and export our interface called tape measure repository. And we're gonna do. We're gonna have to do an add, and that's gonna pass in a tape, which is a tape measure. Return. It's gonna point back a void. We're gonna do a remove. That's gonna be. We're gonna do it. We're gonna remove by. We're gonna remove by ID. So string st. And that's going to return a void. We're going to do a get. So some people may want to look up by ID, which is going to be a string. string. Ooh, st. And hopefully that'll return a tape measure. Let's do a something like has. And that's going to be like an ID string. That's going to be a Boolean. This is going to be similar to, this is how we can, let's say something out there, a UI element or a different script is checking, it gets the idea of something, but it wants to know, is this a tape measure or is this a string that I'm looking at? And so we can do this has. Also, we can do pre-checks before we can check to make sure that a tape measure exists before we grab it with that has. Let's do a get all. And this is going to return all the tape measures. So this is going to be a tape measure. What? No. Oh, yeah. An array of tape measures. And let's do a remove all. Maybe we'll need that. And that's going to be a void. Okay, what else we got? So this is the library of tape measures. We're going to be able to get one by ID. We're going to be able to add one. We're going to be able to remove one. Be able to check if one exists. We're going to be able to get them all. We're going to be able to remove them all. Kind of clear it out. Okay. The last thing that's going to be important is some observers. People, particularly the views, are going to be wanting to know when a new tape measure is added, because when you add a tape measure to the repo here, a view needs to be created for that tape measure and set up. And conversely, if you remove a tape measure from the repo, a view needs to be destroyed, and probably a controller's too. So we're going to have two observers in this one. We're going to have, and they're both going to be, we're going to export type called on tape measure added. And what should we pass back? I think we're just going to pass the string. Or we could add the tape. We're just going to pass the string. And export type on tape measure removed. And in this one, we're going to also pass a string to let people know, let the other systems know, okay, we added, tape measure was added, and then the other one's going to be like, hey, tape measure was removed. So, I think we're going to pass a tape back when it's removed, when it's added. When it's removed, the tape could be already dead. So we'll just tell everybody, well, this is the ID of the tape that was removed. All right, and we need to add some observers. So add on, add tape added observer. and that's going to take an observer, which is of the type of on tape measure added. And I'm going to return a void. We need to be able to remove this, so remove. We need to be able, an observer needs to be able to go away, so we got to do a remove. And we need to do the same thing for, it's kind of awkward the wording, but we're going to do on add tape measure added observer removed on tape. There we go. And same here. All right, make our class. Same approach. We're going to implement it, tape repository imp implements tape Yep, I think we're kind of getting there. So let's go ahead and wire this, get this guy to everything being happy. And let's just get all these guys to return. Just get them all. Void arrow function throw new error to do. Alright, get that one done. Throw that on our void functions. That's not enough. And then these guys actually return something. So let's just do this. And let's grab these guys. Clean that up. All right. Finally, let's make our factory. Make tape measure repo. And this is going to return our it's going to return the interface, and we're going to return new this. Oh, this is a function. Export. Don't lose my focus. Perfect. Okay, now swing over into our test. Let's go ahead and function, make our test rig. And I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to create our repo. Oops, that's not right. And let's go ahead and create, we know we're going to do our observers, so I'm going to go ahead and create those. Add observer and remove. Just out. Okay, cool. Now, let's go ahead and hook up our observers. This is going to throw an error, but yeah, it's going to throw an error. We'll fix that. Tape measure, add observer, and that's the add observer. And tape measure repo dot add remove observer, and that's the remove observer. And then we're going to return our tape repo, our add observer, and our remove observer. Boom. So there's our test rig. Now let's go ahead and test. Repo I know how it would, but empty. All right, so we expect our repo to start out empty. So we're going to get our constant tape measure repo. That's going to be equal to test rig make test rig, and we expect our tape measure repo dot get all to have length of 0. Perfect. Now this is going to throw some errors. First off, these are going to throw errors because they're not hooked up. So let's go ahead and add that in there. So we're going to have our private add observers, and that's going to be this type of on tape measure tape. This one, that's going to be an empty array, and private remove observers. And this is going to be an array of on tape measures removed, and like that. Perfect. Now we need to get these in here. Add tape measure observer. So we're going to do this pretty simple. This dot add observers dot push observer, and same with this. This is going to be remove observers. Cool. All right, we're probably still going to get an error because the get all is not hooked up. Oh, we're on the wrong test. So we're going to filter to tape measure repository dot test, and I'm expecting that to fail because it threw an error because we do not have a get all set up. So get all, we need to return our list of tape measures. We know we're going to need to find these, so let's go ahead and create a nice little map for this. So we're going to have a private, call a map, we'll call it tape measure lookup. It's going to equal a new map. It's going to be a string, will be our ID, and then a tape measure. That's going to be that side. There we go. And now for getting all the tape measures, we're going to do this return, no, not this one. Get all is going to be this array of tapes. So we're going to do a return array from this dot tape measure lookup dot keys values. There we go. Oh, this is wrong. This should be here. And let's go ahead and get this error back in here. Make sure we catch it. Now, I'm expecting that to work. All right, cool. So we start out empty as expected. Well, let's test adding a new tape measure. Adding a tape measure. Not a new one. It is new, but it doesn't matter. Adding a tape measure, and let's go ahead and get this. All right, we're gonna create a tape called we're gonna make this new one called make tape measure, and we're gonna call it tape 1. And what's wrong? Oh, we need our attach to. We're just gonna throw in string 1, and let's do this. So tape measure repo dot add, and that's we're going to add tape in there. Now what are we going to expect? We're going to expect this to have a length of 1 now. We're also going to expect our add observer to be called, so because we've added a tape, and so let's throw that in here too. Expect to be called. There we go. Okay, so let's go up here. So add tape measure. Okay, tape measure lookup dot set tape measure dot ID and the tape measure. So we add it to our lookup, as expected, and then we need to run through our add observers for each. We're going to call them observer. Oh, and we want to pass in observer. It wants the tape measure. So, no, what's wrong? Yeah, I got my signature wrong, don't I? This should be like this. And this should be... Now. There we go. There we go. To be called. Is this going to work? It'll be interesting to see if I can compare tapes like that. They might have the same signature. We'll see. Hey, yes, great. All right. So, quick note: we see we're setting this tape by ID. We need to do a quick error check to make sure that. Let's just write a test. So the test. Adding a tape twice should throw an error. Can't have the same ID. They have to be unique, essentially. So let's do this. And we're going to go ahead and add the tape. Then let's... Yep, and then we're going to do this. So we expect next... We're going to do an arrow into this guy and say tape measure repo.add tape to throw error. Can't have the same ID. So, and then the way we do that over here is we can do this if this dot tape measure lookup has tape measure dot ID, we're going to throw new error. Let's go and do this way. Tape with ID $. Already exists. That should throw an error. Cool. All right. Well, now we'll do one more. I'm going to have to go soon, so we're going to split this video into two. All right. Now that we have a tape in there, we can actually do a get. We can test our getting the tape measure. So let's do test getting a tape measure. All right. So let's go up here, grab this guy, and all right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have a constant returned tape is going to be equal to tape measure repo.get, and we're going to get tape 1, and we're going to expect returned tape to equal the tape that we sent in. Let's see if that works. Probably not, because we don't have it here. So we're going to do this get. Let's see. Return this dot. What we can do, it's going to not like, so watch this. Constant tape is going to be equal to this dot tape lookup dot get ID. Now you'll notice this will come back as possibly undefined. So we're gonna have to throw in a check for that. If not tape, and we'll throw a test in to prove this out in a second. If not tape, throw new error, could not find tape by ID, and we'll throw in the ID like that. Otherwise, we're going to return tape. All right, that should pass. Let's go ahead and test for that error since we know we just did it. If we pass a bad ID, so we don't need to add anything. We're going to do this expect this arrow function into here. Get, just do this, get unknown to throw error. Get rid of that. All right, perfect. We don't need any observers in here. Perfect. Let's see if that passes. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this video. You guys have probably seen enough of this to see where I'm going. I've seen enough entities. I'm going to go and finish this repo on my own, and then we will move into the next step.